Oh! Oh, trauma. Something happens. Trauma. Oh. This is real. This is, yeah. Instead, we create connections and we deepen our relationships with one another by being vulnerable. Vulnerability creates connections, not the other way around. Please, if you guys take away one thing from this episode, vulnerability truly is strength. Hello friends, my name is Benoit Kim, a UPenn educated licensed psychotherapist and your favorite yapper. Welcome to my detailed psychological analysis of Your Lie in April, episode 3. Whew, we survived so far. Shout out to Athathination Zero, Tirtanas, Uixiang, Samsonian, Helixi, Jenny Chimaru, Roxy Love, Maxi TSC, and Adam Chavez for being the founding sponsors of my videos. I appreciate your support. Remember, you matter, you are worthy. Sit back, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Wow. We're starting episode 3 with literally hints of sweetness. Looks like it's waffle with dessert ice cream sundae maybe. Again, the episode and the show is a master of using stark contrast. Look at Kaori's like animation. Absolute enthusiasm, like her facially, her emotionally, energetically. She's like flaring because she's so excited with this dessert. Yet, look at Kosei. Very monochrome, very unresponsive, and very flat. In other words, emotionally restricted as usual, which is a constant through line. So again, I think the show is once again revealing us to that what it looks like when we have our unprocessed grief, unprocessed trauma, when we have these emotional incongruences. What that means is our emotions are incongruent with our thoughts, behaviors, outlook in life. And that always spills over. That's why that's why the concept and the method, air quote, of compartmentalizing our stresses never work out. It works until it doesn't. Because eventually our emotions in the inside spill over to the outside. Case in point. Camera always eats first. Boom. Even with Kosei's monologue, he went from friend A to friend substitute. So again, even his monologue speaks to his low self-esteem and his lack of just appreciation and lack of connection with himself and others, in this case, Kaori. But of course, something tells me based on how episode 2 ended, maybe Kosei, I don't want to say it's romantic because he's severely depressed. And when you're depressed, clinically, you don't really have any energy or emotion capacity for romantic pursuits and thinking about romantic stuff. I think just that his interest has been piqued. And he is interested in her because of her very unconventional, this out-of-the-box, very emotionally expressive, forthcoming performance. You see that? Even Kosei's like, is baking sweets your hobby? Otherwise, why are you so excited about the sweets? What's the big deal? Listen. This is the normal response or a healthy response. When you have an amazing dessert, a massive waffles with sundae, ice cream, whatever on it, of course you're excited, right? Camera eats first and then emotionally you appreciate what's in front of you. So him asking her and she's like, not really. I just love this. Yet again, this is a reveal of Kosei's depression, his emotional disconnection, which causes his criteria clinically, loss of interest, food that he used to enjoy, the flavors are no longer. The difficulty with energies or energy depletion, low mood, all these are clinical criteria for major depression or clinical depression. Kosei checks that. Case in point, his loss of interest and food, amazing food like this, doesn't really mean much for him. There's no excitement. Aww. Even that monologue, she's such an amazing musician, but right now she's just an ordinary girl. Even his monologue suggests what? He didn't say, wow, she's such an ordinary girl and she's an amazing musician. This could be called a Freudian slip, like Freud, the psychoanalyst. When you say things, it's a reveal of our subconscious states, or things we've been thinking about subconsciously. Why am I zooming in and highlighting this? The fact that she highlighted Kaori's musician identity first, and then her identity, which is her primary identity as a human, an ordinary girl, a middle schooler, speaks to his own struggle with his identity. This is the reason why he's so severely depressed and disconnected. In addition to his mom's passing, she being a chronic abuser, and all that complex trauma that I talked about, he sees everyone through the alternative identity or the secondary identity of what they do. But as I talked about on and on again, what we do cannot define who we are. Yet he does. That's why he's like, even to himself, right? His thoughts, monologue, which is what? A reveal of our subconsciousness, what we're thinking about in our core, our essence. She is such an amazing musician. He sees her as a primary identity of a musician first, and then that humanity second. This is why he struggles so much, because his primary identity of a musician, prodigy, pianist died 2 years ago with the death of his mom and all the trauma. And that's why he struggled with his common humanity, because his humanity, who he is as a middle schooler, as a human, as Kosei first and foremost, is secondary to him. That's why he's struggling. It's very deep. Ooh, piano. Classic. What a happy piano. Again, the contrast. Kaori's like, oh, such a happy piano. Kosei's like, I feel bad for it. Sure, there's the technicalities, the water, and the professionalism behind that, right? The nuances. But again, on the surface, it's so different. She's so emotionally free, optimistic, whereas he is very down. He doesn't see the positive things. Yet that's another conceptualization for depression. When we're depressed, conceptually, we call that negative bias. Definition right here. Negative bias means people who struggle with depression, and by the way, I don't like to say we are depressed, because depression is not who we are, just like what we do is not who we are either. So that's why I like to say and reframe it as we struggle with depressions, or other people who struggle with depression, to separate the illness, the struggle with our identity. Does that make sense? People who struggle with depression, they view the world as if through a negative filter, negative biases. Everything is filtered out negatively because of their depression in the inside. Because remember, how we feel in the inside, clinical depressions or otherwise, always manifest externally. Because emotions spill out, right? We are not robots, we're humans. And humans are social emotional animals, and that's a fact, right? Yeah, go Megu. Aww.
すぐ子供と仲良くなるな。精神年齢が近いのか。
Kaori's amazing with children because she's very emotionally expressive. Who is emotionally expressive? Who is emotionally authentic? Who is as raw as they can be? Children. So in that sense, yes, Kosei is right. Kaori is still children at heart. Not that she's childish, but more like she's childlike. She appreciates the innocence, the purity. And of course, the face that she made earlier, I wasn't sure why she made that face, but she's been scheming. She's like, oh, let me reel in Kosei. Because I think she knows Kosei's disconnected with his backgrounds, his interest, his musical or musician identity, right? And I think that's why, just like Tsubaki and Watari are the emotional anchors, the peacemakers between his internal lack of peace and the reality and the experiences, I think Kaori is the same way. I think she's also yet another emotional anchor. She's trying to use these initiatives and low-key, not this, but she's being a little bit pokey. I think she's poking him around, like metaphorically, emotionally, through her own unique way. I think she's trying to pull him out of the darkness into the light, which is emotional congruence. Our emotions and hearts being congruent with our minds.
いや僕は
Oh!
子供に恥かか
Dude, oh, I felt that visceral pain. I felt like phantom pain through my freaking ankle, dude.
Because I have phantom pain.
Like, that kick hurt. Oof. Yo, Kari's scary. Wow. Yo. Kaori's ability to change her emotions and emotional expressions is like bam. She goes from 0 to 100 and back down from 100 back to 0. Like, oh, thanks for saying yes. As if she did not coerce him with violence.
さんはい
She's composing. Tinkle. Oh, her English is good. Oh, 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 Mozart the reincarnate. Oh, 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 we see Kosei smiling. A little blush. Oh,
なんでやめちゃうの
oh,
やめちゃ
trauma.
ダメかっこよかったの
Something
に
happens. Trauma.
本当にごめんね
There's a lot to be analyzed, and there's so much symbolism just in that. I think piano in this cafe represents like a transitional space. The transitional space between home and stage, home and performance. Because think about what home represents for Kosei. It means grief, loss, trauma, loneliness, social isolation, and absence of piano for the last 2 years, which has been his primary identity because of his abusive mother's abuse and reinforcement and forced upbringing and all that. What does the stage represents? Stage represents the place where he shines the brightest. As the youngest winner of that prestigious competition, they said a couple episodes ago, as the stage where his primary identity as a musician, as a pianist, shines. Truly like the brightest star, the North Star. Yet, what does the stage also represent? His emotional breakdown. We still don't know what exactly caused it, but that's how the entire show in episode 1 started. So what do you need? Go from home, this place that sure represents emotional harbor, emotional safety, comfort, and stage where it sure represents connection with the audience, emotional expression, performance, emotional resonance, shared joy of listening to great music, great pianist. To be harmonious again, to reach back out and tap into this equilibrium, because for Kosei, his equilibrium has been lost since 2 years ago, since the passing of his mother and all that. We need a transitional space. We cannot go from 0 to 100. It's about incremental progress, especially dealing with trauma. Trauma work is sensitive and delicate because if you go too fast, it could be reactivating and re-traumatizing, re-triggering of the unprocessed trauma, which is what happened for Kosei. He was playing for a while, the piano was happy indeed, like what Kaori said. Yet, because he's been avoidant, he's been running away from his trauma for the last 2 years, he was re-traumatized in that moment. You cannot go from 0 to 100. But of course, Kaori did not know that because Kosei has not shared that with anyone about his struggle, at least not with Kaori. So back to my point. So what do we need for transitional space? This incremental progress, whether it's a bridge or avenue for healing, you need something that's transitional, incremental, something in between. We call that the in-between space. And I think this piano in this cafe symbolizes the in-between space for Kosei. He may not be ready to perform on the stage yet. He may not be ready to put his foot down, literally with the piano, and go back out there by sharing his beloved music and piano with the world, with the audience, who knows he's amazing, he's great. He may not be ready yet. And the power of yet. Just because we don't have it now does not mean we will never have it. Just because we have not healed through our trauma now does not mean we will be plagued and struggle with our trauma forever. It's just not yet. The work has yet to be done. But with enough work, enough support, connections, anchoring, emotional supports, we can get there and we will get there eventually. Of course, everyone's different timeline. So that's what the piano represents. The second thing, Kosei, I think once again appreciated that, wow, this thing that I've been terrified of, I've been avoiding, literally running away for 2 years, to a point that I think he also struggled with trauma-based disassociation. Definition right here. Trauma-based disassociation. You just hit me now. I think even in episode 1, and I think it was in episode 1, I remember I made a comment about he's been listening to like different music and different pop songs while writing music notes for piano and whatever side gig he was doing. I think it's hard for him to hear his own piano sounds. It's his inability to listen to the sound of his piano. We call that trauma-based disassociation. In other words, trauma-based sensory disconnection. He cannot hear and he cannot appreciate his own sensory input, his auditory output from the piano he plays. Because anytime he hears that piano, what happens? It re-traumatizes him. Because goes back to what I've been saying. He has so much trauma he has not been working through. And trauma does not linger, and this is very, very important. Please listen carefully. Trauma does not linger necessarily because of the incidents, the traumatic events. That's not necessarily the reason why trauma lingers. Trauma lingers because we have not done the integration work. We have not integrated our feelings, our perceptions of what happens, our experiences of that traumatic incident back to our reality, back to our equilibrium, our emotional congruences. And when you do not do that integration work, that's what we call in trauma work, that experience continues to be embedded and encoded, and we continue to perceive that incident having more power above us. We continue to live under the shadow of that traumatic incident. Because being traumatized is not the same thing as having trauma. I have so much trauma. I have so many different traumatic experiences, but I am no longer traumatized by them because I've done the work. I have done the integration. That's why I can revisit and look at the experiences that were once upon a time traumatic. I can revisit those experiences emotionally, perceptually, no longer feeling traumatized by them because I've untethered, I've untangled my perception of the experience and who I am from what happened to me. What happened to us, aka trauma, does not define us. But to untangle that, to untether that association, cognitively, neurologically, and emotionally, we have to do the work. That's the reason why Kosei was unable to keep playing after he was in the flow and he was really feeling himself, even with a smile, with the little blushes, because he is not yet ready emotionally and cognitively to untether from the trauma because he has not done the integration work. I know that was a lengthy yapping, but very, very important. And that piano is extremely, extremely symbolic.
お腹いっぱい。要は満足じゃ。
Very satisfied.
あれ？
Where did Kosei go? He dipped? Oh. The black cat. Meow meow.
にゃんこだ。猫好きなの？
Isn't that the same cat since episode 1 and even in the opening opening sequence?
と同じ黒猫を飼ってたんだ。
Aww. Nostalgia.
ピアノはもう弾かないの？
知ってたんだ。
育成コンクール、ピアノ部門優勝。
Wow, he is famous.
最年少優勝。エトセトラ。
Wow. Wow.
ヒューマンメトロノーム。
Right there. That was his prestigious title, his nickname, the human metronome, with his impeccable perfection and his flawless technicalities. But would you describe a human being, as flawless, perfect, precise? No. You call ChatGPT, agents, computer programming as precise, as being flawless, if you can execute the code perfectly. Does that make sense? Even the title, the nickname that was bestowed upon Kosei because of his prodigy backgrounds, the human metronome, is actually, in fact, a huge detriment. His essence of a human being, his humanity, was confined into this tiny box, the human metronome, the precision, the perfection. But perfection is a lie. Perfection is a lie. Flawlessness is a trap. And precision is great, technicality-wise, with technicals, right? Musicality and so on. That's great. But it's not part of a human characteristics. He has to refine himself, his lost identity, a piece of him that died when he became the human metronome. And that's the reason why he is stuck in the past, in his trauma. He can no longer perform. He can no longer be emotionally connected with this music because he never played it for himself. He played it for his mom, the human metronome. Huge, just even in itself, right? That's why his world is monochromes. That's why his world is gray, bleak, black and whites. I don't know what in the future with AI becomes like humanoids, whatever, AGI and all that. I don't know what the perception of those AI is going to be, obviously through this programming and all that. But I reckon it will be black and whites or gray, just like Kosei's world that's riddled and tethered with trauma, unprocessed trauma. Whereas Kaori represents colorfulness, human being.
歳でオーケストラと共演した振動。同世代で君を知らない演奏家はいないよ。
Damn! Wow, Kosei. Wow. Ooh, deep talk, heart to heart. Aw, meow meow. Aw.
Pianoの音が
Called it. I can't hear the sound of piano. I knew it was some. I knew him listening to those ear pods are different pieces of music through his earphones. In episode was some sort of foreshadowing, and I'm glad my light bulb moments paid off literally momentarily ago. He cannot hear the sound of his piano because of trauma-based disassociation. His sensory input, his perception, his worldview, literally sensory input, senses, hearing, music, is disassociated, disconnected from his experience of his worldview, his living experience. Trauma-based disassociation. And it can be a symptom of very severe trauma for a lot of sexual trauma survivors, or any trauma actually, right? If you've been into really a big car accidents, what do? You have this tactile dissociation. You get really nervous in the car. You sometimes even get like visual, right, impairments. You cannot see things as clearly because maybe that was the impact of a car trauma. So sensory dissociation or sensory limitations or impact based on a trauma can manifest differently. So for Kosei, it's a trauma-based dissociation that manifests through his inability to receive his sensory input, aka music and auditory input. So a severe symptom of trauma or unprocessed trauma.
初めはね聞こえてるんだでも途中から
Yeah.
撫でた音は春風にさらわれた花のようにもつれながら
Wow. Are swept away like flowers in a typhoon of spring winds, fading into nothing. The reason why in the beginning it's fine, because he said it. The more focused he becomes, the more consumed he is by his performance, aka music. And when you tap into flow states, that's what focus is. When he gets consumed by his performance and the music he's playing through piano or whatnot, the gap, the avoidance, the escapism, the barrier between him and the inside and the outside diminishes. That's what flow state is. We tap into the essence of who we are by being the most fluids and proficient as we can with whatever task we're doing. In other words, in flow states, we become one with our experience, with what we're doing. And that flow state is actually detrimental for Kosei because he does not want to become one with his experience. Because when he becomes one with his experience, what happens? All that trauma, like floodgate opens. All the emotions, his mom, the abuse, the death, grief and loss, all that swarms back to him. The floodgates wide open when he becomes one with the experience. So what does he do? He runs away. He tries to avoid them, which is what he's been doing in the last 2 years. But like I said, trauma lingers not because of the incidents in itself necessarily, but more often than not, because of our refusal to confront and reintegrate with that experience. Oh, so poetic translation. See, black and white, very gray, colorless worlds.
支障もないんだ。
Just the
聞
piano
こえない
sounds.
のは僕の演奏する
Yep,
バ
he's
ツ
not ready yet.
指が鍵盤を叩く音も鍵盤が沈む音も聞こえるのに
Damn. He said it. He said it's a punishment. Punishment from what? Him not able to become a world-renowned pianist, which I'm sure he blames himself that his mom died. His mom was not able to overcome cancer or whatever terminal stage illness she was dealing with because he failed. That is his own narrative. That is the story he's telling himself. But the stories we tell about ourselves, to ourselves, about the world and others are often distorted. It is not factual. Our brains neurologically lie to us all the time based on our anxiety, depression, mood, guilt, shame. Our brains lie to us and trick us all the time. One of the most powerful things I can share with my clients and everyone watching is please do not believe everything your brain tells you. Please do not believe every feelings we're feeling. It's very nuanced. Our feelings are always valid because they are our feelings. At the same time, our feelings are not always true. Our feelings are not always factual because feelings lie based on the stories we tell ourselves or vice versa. Our thoughts lie, our brains lie to us based on the feelings that we're feeling. This is a punishment, is what Kosei is telling himself. Because I'm sure in his innocent, hurt, traumatized minds, he's like, oh man, if I've done better, maybe my mom will be alive. But it is not your fault, Kosei. It is not your fault.
きっとこれは罰なんだ
Yo, poor cat.
手が動かないなら足で弾け。むちゃくちゃ指が足りない。
Damn.
悲しくてもボロボロでもどん底にいても弾かなきゃダメなの。
Wow. Kaori's being emotional anchor. She's pulling him out from his retreating into that darkness back into this world. That's what she's doing in a very aggressive way.
そうやって私たちは生きていく人種なの。
People like us. So that means Kaori also have a lot of trauma?
私たち
Struggle? Yeah, what does she mean?
君はそうかもしれない恋をしている
Come
から
on, talk to each other.
は輝く渡りの言っていたことがなんとなくわかる気がする 音
Yeah.
楽に恋をして
Kaori's in love with life. Since music, food, friendships, lovers, they're all facets and they're all tenets of life. She's a lover of life. Aww.
こ
Yeah.
ういう気持ちをなんて言う気持ちは憧れって
Admiration.
言うんだきっと
私の伴奏者に任命します。
Huh?
招集推薦って
What?
それの伴奏。
Damn, what a chill cat. That cat just let them pick him up. Yo, that cat is ready for cat distribution system. That cat is ready to be adopted. Oh, since both my cats are rescues and man, that cat is 1 in a million. Anyway, sorry, let me refocus. My cat dad brain kicked in. Kaori just involuntarily appointed Kosei as her accompanist, like pianist who accompany her performance. Since with this specific competition that she was performing at Town Hall, right, there was a pianist in the background. Two things right there. Level one, I think this is Kaori's world and we're just living in it. She's just so raw, so pure, so free. Unstoppable nature. Amazing. Much respect. Two, I think she realized that, wow, I think I could kind of relate to what he's going through. Although she never expanded upon it, but she's like, people like us, we must keep going. That means she sees a piece of herself in him. She can relate with his story, his experience, because there's probably some sort of unrevealed yet shared struggle, shared experiences. Shared experiences and especially shared struggle, shared trauma. Although it's usually same shit, but different toilet. since most of it has very similar trauma, although they happen in our very unique circumstances because we are all different. But the experience in itself can be shared. These shared experiences is what bond us as human, as a species, as a whole. I think because of that understanding and because of that realization, Kaori's like, I appoint you to accompany me. And accompany is a very, very important word. It means to co-create, co-engage. If there's a dance floor, they'll be dancing together. What a beautiful, poetic imagery, right? Third, I know I said two things, but one more. Third thing is the irony. She appointed him to walk her home to go to that dessert place because Watari was with another girl skipping soccer practice, right? In the beginning, he was friend A. So Kosei is getting involuntarily sucked into the vortex, the powerful, amazing vortex of Kaori. And through appointments, Kaori is also forcibly, in a very gentle, little bit aggro, but loving, careful, considerate way, trying to pull Kosei out of his vortex of darkness into her vortex of light. She's like, quit complaining, quit bitching. I got you. You will play for me, regardless of your readiness or not. Just go with it. Wow, that's amazing. Emotional anchor. Wow. That's the second time Kosei said that. You appeared in the midst of spring. The spring that only happens once in a lifetime. The first time when he said that is what? When he saw her performing that whatever mini piano, saxophone, whatever that instruments on that little playground thing, right? That's when her music moved him emotionally for the first time. Cracked, like forcibly penetrated and cracked open a slight window, an opening in his colorless, emotionally shut down, constricted world of depression and trauma. The second time he said it is she forcibly appointed him to accompany her back to the stage, performing on the stage. What did I just say earlier? That piano in the cafe is a transitional space. It's a space in between. But through Kaori, her amazingness and plot armor, Kosei will be venturing, leaving away from the disconnection from the home to the piano in the cafe, back to the stage. The ultimate reconciliation with who he once were, who he was, the identity that died, but more importantly, a part of him that also died. So he must reconcile and take that back, reclaim that ownership, reclaim that power by reconnecting with a piece of himself that's been lost, disconnected, and ultimately died 2 years ago. Very, very powerful. Wow. Yo! Damn! Yo, Kent, put out that counter. I think that's the fourth time Kosei was hit in the head by some object. Oh, that black cat is still in her arms. Oh man. What is this, hide and seek? Yo, so this is the truth? Kosei went from friend A to plan B? Because plan A bailed? I'm dead. What does that mean? Oh, nice. Yeah, obviously he's feeling chill because someone's talking about him. One more thing just hit me again. Even with that very comedic, wholesome chase scene between Kosei and Kaori, you see that his facial expressions was more lively. He became more alive. Despite his flat affect, which is a clinical depiction of trauma, depression, Kaori is already slowly and gradually changing Kosei's internal experience and external expression for the better. And this is actually a very powerful technique through CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, which is one of the golden standards and modality I'm certified in as a psychotherapist. CBT constitutes what? Our cognitions, the thoughts, can change our behaviors, influence our behaviors for better or worse, which is the cognitive behavior. There's a CBT triangle right here. But it's bi-directional. We can also use what we call behavior activation, definition right here. Behavior activation, activating our emotions, better thoughts through actions, behavior activation. Through also behavior activation and actions, we can also improve our thoughts and emotions, cognitive behavior therapy. That's why it's not just a cognitive therapy, it's cognitive and behavior. In that sense, through that lens, what Kaori did is through this comedic physical chase scene and all this physicality, she is literally using behavior activation to activate his internal world of deadness, colorlessness. He's being activated energetically and emotionally through this physical interaction. Does that make sense? Right? Very good. Look at the difference in Kosei's facial expression when he's by himself and when he's with Kaori. Very different. One is a lot more lively, one is not. One is flat. Oh, Kaori's performing.
三サンスの女装と
I feel like Kaori's also trying to tap into a subliminal messaging by playing the piece she will be performing for the second round. She's literally like implanting Inception. Shout out to one of the best movies of all time, Inception. She's incepting the seed of idea, seed of invitation by playing the music. Subliminal messaging.
リピート再生って
Yup. She's trying to brainwash him. What did I say? Yo, she's a person of action. Well, it's your subliminal messaging. I'm dead. They're not even hiding it. They're just blatantly trying to brainwash him and just influence him. But again, it's helpful through the therapeutic perspective of behavior activation. When we're depressed, when we feel very disconnected from ourselves, from other meaningful relationships, we do not want to stay home. We do not want to be cooped up all day. Of course, based on how we're feeling and based on the context, since it's always case by case, it's always different. If we are able to, we need to force ourselves to leave our house. Because being in the inside, it literally depresses our depression further. It's literally depressing when we're depressed, being isolated socially and emotionally by ourselves with whatever our safe space is. Safe space is very important, very helpful. But through behavior activation, because this is the highlight of this technique, we need to activate our brain, our body, get some movement in. Right? Yo. I mean, where is the fine line between subliminal messaging and straight up blatant messaging and straight up harassment? It's a fine line. Yo, Tsubaki infiltrated. Wait, another counter, Kent. He got hit again. Tsubaki literally threw a baseball through the window, probably again, like what she did during her PE class in episode 1, to give him a concussion. And after the fact, when he picks up the baseball, there's the freaking name of the piece that Kaori will be performing. Wow, that's dedication. That's perseverance. Respect, Tsubaki. Respect. Again, here we go again. Yo. For a week, this torture is plaguing everyone because Kosei's refusal, his denial, his disconnect. Kosei, come on. My man, my bro, my guy. Just say yes for the sake of everyone else in this school. That is torture. Violin is such a cool instrument. You see that? Behavior activation is working. Kosei's hands and behaviorally are literally activated because of this song on repeat for a week. His hands, you say his eyes were closed. He's priming himself. He's priming his emotional states and his muscle memory because of this behavior activation. Like I said, it's helpful for depression, helpful for a lot of even anxiety. Exposure therapy is I guess kind of cousins in that realm. It's working. All this tactics is paying off. That sigh of defeat. Yes, you can. One of my favorite reframing is impossible is I am possible. Impossible is possibility that has not happened yet. But yet does not imply never. It is possible. Yeah, I'm sorry tomorrow. I believe in you, Kosei.
無理やり伴奏なんていいのいいグッアイデアよグッアイデア
Good idea.
あたりにも手伝わせよう絶対ピアノ弾かせてやる
We call that best friend privilege. Tsubaki could get away with almost killing him with a baseball for the third time, and all this stalking, all this gross invasion of privacy, because she is his best friend privilege. Respect.
椿ちゃんは
Ah, Kosei, come
好きな
on.
んだね
Oh, romantically?
ちょっと違うな私に
Yeah, I think it's just childhood best friends, like a brother.
一人っ子なのに
弟って感じ
Ah, I see.
どうでもいいんだ
But it's him reconnecting with himself. That's what
や
important
める
is.
なら納得してやめて 半端だもん
Tsubaki is like, I wish it's not about him quitting or not playing piano. It's him avoiding the trauma. And it's because everything he's doing, even him playing and him not playing, is inflicted by the core trauma, aka his mom. That's what Tsubaki is saying. I wish he did it on his own term because this is his life. Yet, he's like a puppet being controlled by the puppeteer master of his mom, living under the shadow of his mother. That's what she's talking about.
あの日から後世はどこにも行けず
Oh, the background music's amazing.
ピアノを弾いてほしいきっと何かが変わるはず
Yes, 100%. That's literally integration work. One more thing I'll say, it's very nuanced and very deep, so I won't go too much into it. But the final piece of trauma work, the final missing piece that even a lot of therapists and clients don't really work on when they engage in trauma work or doing integration work, is the final piece of integration is the re-confrontation of your trauma. You have to face your trauma head on to finally understand and also realize that, am I ready to finally move on? Is my healing enough so that I can keep living my life without being stuck in that trauma? Without that confrontation piece, our integration work is not fully complete. A very simple example. Let's say you struggle with relational trauma because you dated a narcissist. And I mean clinical narcissist, not just what TikTok people say it's narcissist. Someone who's clinically narcissistic, personality disorder, NPD, right? Definition right here. So you dated a narcissist and you were abused emotionally and verbally because narcissists are very self-centered. There's no remorse, no empathy. Everything's about themselves. And you start doing trauma work, right? You see a therapist, you do the work, psychologist, whatever it is. You will never know if you're truly ready with your trauma work and if you've truly healed from your traumatic experience of dating a narcissist until you can sit down and face another narcissist. Hopefully not in a relationship, since it is a loss-loss scenario when you date a narcissist, right? Not to say narcissists cannot be in remission. Not to say that narcissists are irredeemable. That's not what I'm saying. But they have to engage in very, very rigorous and consistent trauma work. And a lot of narcissists don't do that because they don't think they need help. They got everything down and all that, right? Anyway, you have to be able to re-engage and reconfront a new narcissist to see, am I still being activated? Are my emotions still being triggering? Am I having traumatic flashbacks? Am I being re-traumatized by conversing or talking to a narcissist? If you are, then there is still some work to do. If you do not, and you're feeling this neutral state, this neutrality, this neutral emotional state, you can revisit and reconfront trauma of your past without being confined and being stuck in that trauma in the present sense. That means your integration is complete. That means you have officially untethered who you are and your perception of who you are from what happens to you, the trauma that causes spiraling and whatever that happens. So in that sense, a Kosei, he needs to reconfront piano and playing on the stage as part of his trauma work. Otherwise, this trauma-based dissociation, his struggle, his inability to receive his auditory input will continue, right? But I felt called to share that piece, and that's why integration requires confrontation in a safe way, right? In a professional way, in a supportive way, of course. Safety always comes first. Did Kosei show up? This is the students of the prestigious judge, right? Or that teacher. Oh, I love classical music. Such finesse. Where is Kosei? Beautiful day out. Yo, this is Kosei's hiding spot? Busted. I think she's gonna make her final plea. Or beat his ass. Yeah, or that. Also, maybe Kosei can't hear his music because of all the TBI, traumatic brain injury. From all that concussion and bleeding his brain's been suffering from. Maybe that's the real reason why his sensory input with auditory input has been impacted. Obviously, it's a joke. You got it, ganbatte. We believe in you, Kosei. Avoidance, escapism. True. True. Oh, real vulnerability. Man, inner darkness. His connection from himself. Oh man, that must be the sound or the voice of his mom, I'm guessing. Oh, so this is what happens. Oh. No, you won't. You will no longer be stuck at the bottom of a dark ocean, because you have Tsubaki, Watari, and now Kaori. They will pull you out of your darkness. And that makes sense. That is the context that's been revealed. He had an emotional breakdown because his inability to hear the sound of his piano. So I'm guessing the emotional break or the breakdown on the stage happened probably after his mom passed away. Yeah, man, and I'm really, really happy that Kosei finally became honest with his own feelings. He was finally authentic with how he's been feeling. He hasn't just been running away from his trauma. He's also been running away from parts of himself. These emotions are part of who we are, period. By being disconnected and by being avoidance, by running away from our emotions, the good or the bad, we are effectively severing ties. And we're also choosing to disconnect with the rest of who we are. Because without emotions, we no longer become humans. Emotions are what make humans humans. It's the being. It's the emotions. It's the connection. Because without emotion, there's no connections, right? But I'm glad that he finally felt he was compelled to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is strength based on Brené Brown's amazing research. By him being more vulnerable, he became more honest with himself. And that honesty created an opportunity for Kaori to, I'm sure, relate, resonate, and to support him. She will pull him out from the bottom of the ocean, where the sound barely reaches. Yes! Yes! Lifeline, baby.
全部知ってる。でも君がいいの。
Aww.
聞いてくれた人が私を忘れないように。
Ah, goosebumps, man. Oh.
それが私のあるべき理由。
Oh, man.
私は演奏家だもの。君と同じ。
Oh, man, that's beautiful. Music is the ultimate bridge that connects us with ourselves and other people. That is musician. That is the power and the beauty of music. And through Kaori's heartfelt speech and encouragement, I hoped and I'm sure it's going to galvanize Kosei into action. Like the spring. He will now springboard into action because he's like, you're right. I forgot the power and the beauty of music. I forgot that without music, I've been disconnected with myself and other people and the audience, the people who came to see him perform, people who paid to have a seat among the audience, to enjoy and resonate and connect with his music. Through Kaori's heartfelt conversation, Kosei was reminded again that, oh my gosh, that's right. Music has always been a part of me, with or without my mother. Oh man.
だからお願いします。私の伴奏をしてください。私をちょっぴり。
Oh. This is real. This is yeah. Oh, vulnerability on both sides. I'm telling y'all, vulnerability creates connections. Emotions are the foundation of all relationships. That's true. Oh, that's true.
君の伴奏。
Oh. Even looking now, even this pause screen. Kaori's in the light. That's why she's bright. Kosei's in the darkness. He's in the shadow. You see that? Another very, very powerful visual representation of the dichotomy, the gap, the contrast between Kaori's world, full of life, and Kosei's world, full of darkness. But just like the piano in the cafe, just like the transitional space, the space in between, I'm sure literally after this pause screen, Kosei will step out, literally from under the shadow, and step into the light, and ultimately perform on stage. This is, man, this is amazing. Step into the light, baby. Let's go.
でも知らないからな。
Busted. Yo, poor Kosei's ankle, dude. That knee. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
20分まと
Oh. Yo. One more thing I'll say before finishing this episode on a high note is I really want to help you guys contextualize why vulnerability is strength and why I said vulnerability creates connections. Let me keep it super brief. We do not get closer with each other by bragging about things that's going well. We do not get closer to each other by bragging about how successful we are, how much money we make, how much accolades we have on our shelves. No. And you just come off as extremely impersonable and super cocky and just not enjoyable to talk to. Instead, we create connections and we deepen our relationships with one another by being vulnerable. Man, I had a fight with my wife last night. I hate seeing her cry. I hate seeing her upset. I'm gonna do better. I will be a better husband. And my friends will be like, "Oh, dude, same man. I had a similar experience. I also argued with my wife, and I just felt so terrible about it." Man, marriage really helps us grow. Man, we are learning so much from marriage. It makes us better. You see that? Vulnerability creates connections, not the other way around. Please, if you guys take away one thing from this episode, vulnerability truly is strength. We don't have to walk around this world with armor through the calluses. Armors are there because of our trauma, because we've been hurt. It's our coping and defensive survival mechanism. I fully understand that. But as long as we have this armor on, the calluses on, we can never get intimate with ourselves because there's a literal barrier, metaphorically or emotionally. We cannot fully embrace one another. How can you give each other a hug when you have this big ass armor on, metaphorically, right? Even as soldiers, after you come home from the battlefield, what do? You take off your body armor. You take off the armor plates because you're no longer in danger. I hope we can all embrace our vulnerability with those that we trust, with those that we feel safe, because we deserve it. We are also worthy to be loved without having armors on all the time. I love the optimism. Did they just steal their... Did they just take someone's bike? Oh, beautiful cherry blossom. It's springtime, baby. Spring. Renewal. Wow, episode 3, in the midst of spring. And as he's being transported to the town hall, the venue for the competition, he said, after meeting Kaori, which is spring of the first spring of his lifetime, now even his world, his outlook became more colorful. His colorlessness is now being filled by a little bit of colorfulness because he has amazing people like Kaori, Tsubaki, and Watari. Emotional anchors, his lifeline. Man, absolute beautiful episode. That's enough yapping for today. As always, if you enjoy my yappings, please smash that thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe if you want to stay tuned with my videos and episodes and series. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And please remember, we have to reconnect with the parts of ourselves that's been lost. We have to reconnect with all of our emotions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because by denying our emotions, we are effectively denying the very essence of who we are. Because humans are emotional animals. Full stop. Till next time. Peace.